Every journey is a story of growth. Today we're talking about sports and leadership here with Lara Murphy on Game Changers. She is with Calgary Wild FC, and we can't wait to get into this exciting episode of Game Changers. Step into the arena of Game Changers. With me, Robin Finley, where every setback is a setup for a comeback. Together, let's explore the strategic plays, teamwork dynamics, and resilience found in sports, applying them to the world of business for transformative conversations and lasting impact. Remember, we never lose. We either win or we learn. We're back with Lara Murphy for another exciting episode. Last episode, we chatted about learning from your losses during sports and business. Today, we're going to talk about sports and leadership. We'll get right after with our first question. How has sport influenced your leadership journey?
Well, it's a broad question,
Yes.
but I can safely say that I wouldn't be here speaking with you today without sport. That is the constant thread that has pulled through my life and taught me so many things. I often joke that sport taught me how to lose and get back up again, and I'll quote Ted Lasso, and he always said you have to have the memory of a goldfish. And to me, that's a great crossover and a comparison for business and sport. So you lose, you get back up and you try again, you shake it off the next day, you're back at it on the pitch, on the court, whatever that might be, or in your office at your desk. So really, if you can have the ability to take the lessons learned, regroup, refocus, and move forward, it's gold.
Yeah, it was a lot about goldfish, right? It was a lot about, like we talked about in our last episode too, learning from your losses, your moments away from redemption all the time. I love Ted Lasso and all the great quotes, and I recently went through something with my team building a little bit with my my lacrosse team, and a lot of the girls, I've used the goldfish quote on them, and a lot of them quoted it back to me as part of their goals. So that kind of rolls into our next question was, how did your coaches approach team building when you were an athlete?
There were a variety of different styles,
Sure.
I can say that. It was a different day when I was playing, so a lot of the school of hard knocks. But I think the best coaches I had really learned how to motivate and see things in their players that the players maybe didn't see themselves. So a way in which you can set goals that are something that you really have to reach and strive for, but that individually knowing the player, you're asking them something that is attainable, even if it's on the edge or the cusp of what they may have accomplished in the past or their future. So really knowing what makes the players tick and relating. And that holds true in business and sport. If you can relate as a leader or a coach to your players, have that connection, then if you get that baseline, it's so much easier to move forward, motivate, inspire, and really get the results that you're looking, whether you're in the office, around the boardroom, or on the pitch. And that to me has been my golden rule.
Have you ever used any of those hard knocks team building methods?
Not so much. I think, it's a way in which, everyone has certain boundaries, and it's important to have those boundaries when you're leading a team on the pitch again, or in the boardroom, or in the office. But really navigating in a way that there's always fairness, and a place where people feel a sense of belonging and that their voice is heard is truly really important to me as well.
Yeah, we've definitely evolved from some of the tactics of the past.
Oh yeah.
I mean, some were effective, and I'm grateful for the lessons myself, but I'm glad we've evolved. So what are some sport lessons that apply in your life and in business or business?
I think, work rate will always beat talent. So if you have someone that is very keen and wants to work, and maybe they stay a little later or put their hand up, I mean, that to me is like that keenness of what it is to really want to be a part of a team and learn and never sit still. And I know my grandfather always said to me, Lara, at the end of the day, if you can put your head on the pillow and you've really done your very best to your ability during that day and the time you're working or part of a team, then you can rest easy. And it's not always that simple, but I do remember those words, and he really pushed me and made me understand that in the blink of an eye, time does pass. So every day, make the most of it and really try to show up as your best.
Yeah, no, I agree with that one a ton. It's it's a famous one, it takes no special skills to be a hard worker. So always be the hardest worker in the room is something you hear, whether it's Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson talking about that, being the hardest worker, or a lot of people who have had some success that way. So that's a great lesson, I think. How do sports connections helped you in business?
A lot. I mean, I think on one level, it's you adapt or lose. But from a sporting level, I was a young woman, and I was recruited at just 17 years old to go play in England with older players. And so really learning the life lessons of how you relate, what it is that you can do to contribute to a team, even if at the beginning it's not the position that you want, whether it's in business or sport. You have to really work towards that in a way that you gain your place. But I think adapting or losing is a big one for me, and it's one that's helped me along the way. And I think sport is the great equalizer in that you're able to come to a place and relate to people, speak to them, and share journeys and stories. One wonderful thing about Calgary is many of the folks aren't from here.
Right.
And so when you meet and you're able to share stories of how we ended up in the city and what we're doing, it's incredible to learn about people's journeys and then ultimately take them where they're at.
I wanted to touch on that a little bit about not being from here, because you're not from here.
No, that's right.
But I mean, even I've had hockey players on, I've had rugby players on, I've had football players on. Everyone talks about how that community, whether you stay involved or not, those people, they end up, maybe there's a business transaction that happens through those connections. Have you been able to have any of those connections?
Absolutely. Yeah. When I first moved to Calgary, I did play soccer, and it helped me really meet individuals. And I think, it gives you the confidence to go out and then start to join different associations and businesses. And there's so many in Calgary, and Calgary's such an entrepreneurial city that if you're willing to be uncomfortable and get comfortable being uncomfortable and meeting people and picking up the phone or going online. And for me, it was really truly about sharing my story. So I often joke that, if you spend any time with me, you'll hear my soccer story and my journey. And in that, there's so many parallels to business. And I always had a business through my career in soccer, and when I moved to Calgary, I started that over, and it enabled me to meet people, and I think really gives you the confidence. There's lots of statistics around women that play at a high level in sport, and I think the last one I read was a study out of Ernst & Young, and 94% of women that are at C-suite positions played sport at an elite level, and that's pretty staggering when you really think about that statistic, and it's one that I think does hold true, and for me it really helped break down some barriers and allowed me to meet people and also feel comfortable being in rooms where certainly initially when I moved here I didn't know anyone or maybe feel like I belonged, and so it just gave me the confidence to keep my chin up and keep going.
Yeah, with those sort of recreational leagues where you get in and feel comfortable are great ways to network. And yeah, as everyone knows, I coach lots of female athletes, so I'm pretty familiar with that one. So I always tell those female athletes I'm coaching, I can't wait to see where you end up in life, because I think they're a lot of leaders of the future. Well, that wraps up today's episode here with Lara Murphy. Lara, tell us where everybody can find you.
Sure. You can find us Calgary Wild FC on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and Facebook.
Thanks again for being here today, Lara. Next episode, we're going to be talking about developing leadership skills. We'll see you next time. Thank you for joining me, Robin Finley, on this journey through Game Changers. As the final whistle blows, let's carry the wisdom of sportsmanship, determination, and adaptability into our business endeavors. Stay tuned for more enlightening discussions on the winning strategies that transcend the field and the boardroom.